As we continue to explore the intricate world of data-driven strategies, it's time for a discussion that promises to be the highlight of our event. The panel discussion on strategies for data-driven outcomes. This discussion brings together a powerhouse of industry leaders, each with their own unique perspective and experiences. I am thrilled to introduce the esteemed panelists who will be sharing their insights with us. Mr. N Mohanty, President Technology at Pidilite Industries Limited, bringing his expertise to the intersection of technology and innovation. Mr. Rajgopal Nayak, CTO of Metro Brands Limited, known for his tech-driven approach in shaping the retail landscape. Mr. Mukesh Mehta, India CTO-CISO at Investec Capital Services India Private Limited, offering a wealth of knowledge in financial technology. Mr. Yogesh Lohra, Head Digital Transformation at Larsen and Toubro Realty, contributing his insights into transforming the real estate sector. Mr. Tejas Shah, Head IT Apps at Prince Pipes and Fittings, showcasing his expertise in IT solution and industrial success. Mr. Sunil Sonare, Head IT at ITD Cementation, sharing his journey of driving innovation in the construction industry. Mr. Sanjay Agrawal, Head Presales and CTO at Hitachi Vantara, India and SAARC, providing deep insights into technology and business integration. And to expertly guide our discussion, we have Ms. Minu Sirsalewala with us. As our moderator, her vast knowledge in the technology landscape makes her the perfect choice to steer this conversation. May I please call upon the stage the panelists.
Good morning, gentlemen. I don't see many ladies here, so I think I'll skip that, just to, I think two to be precise, and myself. So thank you so much for taking the time out from your schedule and being with us this morning to have a discussion on strategies for data-driven outcomes. So just to get a context going, the digital transformation journey for any organization generally is the process of using technology and data-driven strategies to fundamentally change and optimize various aspects of an organization's operations, process, and customer experience. In this approach, data is considered a strategic asset that drives decision-making, innovation, and gives the competitive advantage. And we also generally talk about the digital transformation journey is based on 4 pillars, very generally put, like people, technology, and maybe further talking about infrastructure management, data management, and cloud management. And very important role that data plays is that we always talk about moving from data management to eventually every business's goal is data monetization. So kind of what we are looking at in this discussion today is a structure where we will talk about a little bit about data center modernization, data management and protection, data management for achieving monetization goals, and of course, the most spoken about, the generative AI, so the use of AI and ML in data infrastructure to give a better customer experience also. So we have had a round of introductions to the esteemed panelists we have. Extremely thrilled to have such a mix of experts from across industry sectors. Thank you to each one of you for being a part of this panel. So quickly to get on to the discussion, maybe starting with Mr. Nayak from Metro. If you could just share, sir, as business undergo infrastructure modernization, how can they ensure a seamless transition without disrupting existing operations?
Sure. A warm welcome to all the members of the panel and the audience. Thank you for having us and taking your precious time to hear us. Right? So when one talks of a strategy involving around data modernization, data revamping, whatever you may call it, it is important to note that this is a large change management project that is there. And as is true with any large change management project, one of the first things is to plan and assess what we want to achieve. And ideally, what I would recommend is to have a one-pager as to what the end goal is for the organization or for that particular task force that has embarked on this particular activity. The second and most important thing is in the area of communication, right? And stakeholder management. Please realize that one is not doing the projects for one's own intellectual satisfaction, but it has a proper business outcome, which means it impacts the lives and the business as usual for a lot of our own internal customers, and in some cases external customers also. So the stakeholder management in terms of communication, right, is very important. The other thing is that in the whole area, given the whole digital privacy laws that have come in now, right, any modernization approach should definitely factor in two aspects. One is sustainability, and one is the area of cybersecurity / digital rights or privacy management. Okay, that is the third aspect that needs to be covered. And finally, while there's always a trade-off with respect to how one should go live with a particular strategy, right? You have the big bang approach and you have gradual. I tend to always favor the gradual, because it gives time for the whole ecosystem, if I may say so, to ease into a new way of working or new way of understanding the data, right? That is my 2 bits on it. Thank you.
So, Mr. Mukesh, if I could ask you, because we're talking about uninterruption, and you've been in a dynamic market space where there's no downtime, there's no room for downtime of any kind. So, what would be your take on this?
The important thing is that how do you manage the third party vendors, the outsiders, and the data center activities, because interruption or these things will come if something is wrong at some edge, somewhere. So we need to be very precise on how do you manage the SLAs, how do you manage the infrastructure, how do you manage the life of the infrastructure when it needs to be moved ahead of the life. What is there in the cloud? What is there on your private cloud or a hybrid cloud or a public cloud? So these things need to be organized in a proper way, and you need to have a complete 360 degree of your vision that what can happen at what stage. Like we are in the broking industry where many things are dependent on the exchanges, many things are dependent on the third parties and all those things. So you need to have a robust connectivity method first, so that everything is redundant. Now, 10 years back, when you used to plan for the entire infrastructure, it was a physical, single, many failure points and all those things 15 years back. Now today, there is if you talk infrastructure, literally there is no failure points. Everything is redundant. So you need to have a complete, if something goes wrong, and then you need to have a complete plan. There has to be, when you do a complete infrastructure, entire understanding or some designing, you need to have some tools and mechanism where you can have a predictive analysis. So something is wrong, some disk is at 70%, 80% or 90%. How do you can manage and how it can automatically get into the next disk and all these spaces. Like similarly on the compute also, if something is continuously, the compute is at 80% or 90%, it should have a capabilities. Automatically, it should take the other things from your this thing. Similarly, if something is on a SaaS-based model, you need to be very accurate. Vendor need to be very clear how he's managing, how he can do those things. So there are many things which need to be discussed with the partners, with your internal team. And what he said is the stakeholders should always be aware what is happening at the ground level, or something is there. So they should be aware, okay, this is how you have to manage it.
Sir, so we just spoke about infrastructure management without disrupting the operations, and then we move on to sustainability. So maybe I could just ask you this, that sustainability is a growing concern, and how can businesses build a sustainable data infrastructure that aligns with the environmental goals? So what would be your thoughts on that?
Yeah, thank you very much. And first of all, that I would like to aid that previous speakers told that Mr. Nayak and Mr. Mehta. So sustainability is very much important, and even that modernization purpose or whatever, then that technology is updating very fast. So then even previous speakers, what they told. So then every 5 years we've seen that according to that certain new kind of the technology is coming up, application-wise, infrastructure. So then we need to have a better strategy, say maybe for the 3 years, 5 years, long-term strategy. And For the sustainability, you know that particularly business doesn't want to have any kind of the disruption in their day-to-day operational activities. So then we need to have such kind of the data centers where we can have multiple utility kind of the functionalities, so that our data centers and whatever infrastructure is kept inside that, so that can be having some kind of continuity operations. Even we should have a very good business continuity plans, as well as we need to have a like upgrading infrastructure, application, that kind of the strategy. And now moving that, like this COVID, we've seen that lot of working environment, other kind of scenarios has been changed. So then we need to moving from mobility also. So then every space, everything, so then wherever it required, so then we need to have a such kind of the mobility, speed, and agility is very much important for this purpose.
True. So Tejas, if I could ask you also to just contribute, because as you rightly mentioned, sustainability, during COVID there was an acceleration, and we still are discussing in various sectors that there has not been that kind of sustainability witness as it was anticipated. So what are your thoughts on that?
See, I think there are two types of coexistence. One is the data adoption, which has to be done as per the requirement of the company. So for example, let's say in my current organization, we are implementing a central data warehouse. So we need to ensure that each and every third party application, either it is our core application or whatever, we need to ensure that there is a common platform, and it has been driven either by pulling or pushing the data. So that is one thing wherein we keep on saying that there has to be a common thing wherein data comes in, and it has to be sustained for a longer period of time. And obviously then the cloud and everything will come in picture, and costing will come in picture, management will come in picture. But one thing is to ensure that each and every aspects of various data, whatever in terms of industry data, user data, or in terms of any data has to be in common platform, so that then the sustainability and everything comes in picture. So this is the prior step before we go forward.
Mr. Nayak, would you like to add to?
Sure. When one talks about sustainability, right? So it is important that all of us as hardcore industry practitioners need to push this particular agenda. Now, even when you're evaluating a data center today, right? It's important to get into the details of what sustainable mechanisms have been put in place with respect to, let's say, power, with respect to the whole building and the cooling infrastructure that is there. And you'll be surprised that all your data center providers actually are looking in this particular, and they have ready reports out there. Even when you do a cloud adoption, let's say for argument's sake you're on a public cloud like AWS. Okay, how many of us take the effort to go and see the sustainability report out there, which actually tells you for your account or instance, right, what kind of sustainability has been achieved since you moved to the cloud, right? Well, the worst thing you can do for sustainability is to go with bare metal servers, right? It's always important that things like virtualization, containerization, etc., that ensures that you are more sustainable from a compute or energy consumption, are adopted. The other thing that really comes to mind in this whole area is with respect to data. How you store data? Are you really compressing the data and storing it? Because that means you require lesser NVMe or disks, which means lesser energy consumption, right? What are we doing to ensure that the algorithms that we run are optimized? What are we doing to ensure that the backups that we take are actually tiered? Because a colder storage uses lesser energy consumption, right? These are small things that you do, and they may not be something that you write home about. But it is important to understand that what we are doing is for our own and our children's future.
True.
Right? Given that the number of data centers are just going to explode. Right? Thank you.
So we spoke about the management and the sustainability. So Sanjay, if I could ask you, what are the key considerations in achieving the highest SLAs like performance resiliency for data infrastructure?
That's an interesting one. At the end of the day, business performance is very important for every enterprise. If we have to achieve a good performance and resiliency for the business, we need to ensure that there's a right strategy for that. we also need to ensure that that SLA is applicable at the application level, data level, and infrastructure level. Let me touch upon the infrastructure part. If you look at today, application performance that's driven by the infrastructure, the parameters that people are looking for is latency. How fast we are able to execute the transaction and how quickly we are able to respond to the queries or transactions that are coming from the field. Then comes how many transactions you can process simultaneously. And in today's digital world, when we are talking about unstructured data as well, tons of data, terabytes and petabytes of data are getting loaded. So how is your throughput coming in? So if you look at all of these, you need a very different technology architecture that can sustain all these three pillars and ensure that you get microseconds kind of data latency that generally is not spoken about. Similarly, throughputs could be in million of IOPS, 30, 40 millions are the common numbers that people are looking at from a performance perspective. When we talk about availability, which is resiliency, now it's no longer at the component level. The system, the architecture should be resilient to the component failures, the data center failures, and disasters. And you have very resilient architectures in place today to address that. You also have mirrored IT, digital twins for some environments, and of course, multi-site, 3 sites and 4 sites DC-DR solutions that will give you zero RTO and zero RPO kind of solutions. That ensures business continuity is always maintained.
So, Yogesh, just to quickly move on to you, and we're talking about data management, and we were briefly discussing how important data is in terms of achieving your business goals also. So, how can organizations ensure data availability and protect critical information, especially in the face of these evolving cyber threats and understanding how you create or possess the data?
Okay, let me take a step back, right?
Yeah.
Going too technical, I think, in the interest of audience, I'll just say, let me put a little light on the sector which I represent, which is real estate. And probably I'll stitch back everything what every speaker has said it, right? So, data transformation, let me take this stand, right? Digital transformation is an over-abused word. Everyone sticks back, digital transformation is happening, this and that. But what I learned in last 2 to 3 years is if entire organizations know very clearly what is business transformation they want to achieve down the line. When you talk to a CEO, he said, this is what I want to achieve, this is what the business I'm into. Now let me take an example of real estate, right? It is very a niche market in terms of when it comes to transactions. It is not like in banking where you have hundreds of thousands of transactions happening every day. Few transactions, but the transactions values are very high. Hence, from a business transformation perspective, it becomes very, very important. You draw your stakeholder metrics, what segment you want to target. Either you are going to be a customer-centric company, or you are going to be an employee-centric in terms of to deliver fast, sell fast, or you're going to be a customer. So take one business goal. Let me put an example and then stitch back what is the technology or data is we're going to build to support that goal. For example, as he rightly said, the fundamental is infrastructure. And if that goal said this is the first step I need to, and then probably we do a gap analysis from a technology and data perspective. And then data is available or not available, that we can have a separate discussion on that one within the organization. But if you don't get your business transformation right, you will probably fail at the digital transformation, isn't it? So at my organization, what we do, the first exercise, what we do is, okay, let's understand what is your, as you rightly said at this start, right? Customer experience is, everybody is focusing on customer experiences and weaving rest of the things around that one. So in the real estate, before COVID, right, it was, unless if you are buying a house, you will probably, it is probably one of your hard savings and one-time experience in your life. Despite you have n number of digital experience, you would still want to go to the site and experience and see the flat, right? I think it is not going to be replaced. But when you know, okay, how can I, improve this customer experience and can I use digital transformation to support that, that's where the entire planning comes into picture. For example, right, in the COVID time, somebody wants to, they has the money and want to invest and say his journey starts from search and then till he gets the key, right? So that entire journey, so what we usually discuss it, can you map the customer entire journey? For each journey, now put a lens of an infrastructure, now put a lens of a data. What data is customer is going to generate? Ensure that data is clean, ensure that there is no junk data is coming, ensure that data is colored. If that customer puts any digital footprints, it comes with all the parameters. So you don't have to waste a lot of technology and then they clean the data, filter the data, ensure this and that. So that entire approach, if business transformation is there with stakeholder journey, so in this case customer, and then it will start from the search, for an example, for an house. Ensure you are there on the first when he searches L&T or he searches any other competitor, right? You are there. Where he is interested in your, say he's searching 2 BHK. Is he getting all the information or not? You are there or not? What sort of, so understand customer behavior first. Any industry I'm talking about. If you are able to nail that with all the technologies we are talking about, and that is the integration and that is the recipe, right? Now it is more upon what recipe is. If I am a cook, right? I have a particular recipe. As a digital transformation lead, I'm good at creating certain recipe based on what you want.
What's your
and which is currently, I mean, I see a lot of discussion which is missing what you want to achieve, and then stitch that recipe. Now it could be infra, it could be data security. Today's newspaper, I was reading today that now new data bill has coming, right?
True.
DATA. So that we can all use it. That is more of a compliance side of it.
Absolutely.
So at the my experience has said, if I address the business process and business transformation objective, my digital transfer comes as a complementary, right? So at L&T, what we have done is that now any customers, right, is usually for around with us under construction property if he stays 3 to 4 years. And during that 3 to 4 years, what experience you're going to give it, and there all the gizmos comes in, your generative AI, your customer experience, AR, VR, and then it gives us an idea, okay, this here, if it is, this is the case. If he just simply wants to look at his receipts on the phone, what do you need? Why don't you have a customer app for that one? Why to bother? So our CEO says, my KRA is, I want 0 incoming calls from customer. Not, it is very offensive, because customer should get everything on the phone or WhatsApp. You have multi-channel communication, right? That's how they look at it. And then he said, how many incoming calls are coming? We said around 3,000. I want is 0. So now when you know this, I have to make that incoming call 0.
So that's your goal that you need
Correct.
to
So
work
what I'm
towards,
going to
and
stitch
aligning
the
your
recipe is, I'm going to ask, right, okay, let me see how many, what types of calls are coming. Then you need an analysis. Now you need analytics, isn't it? So now, okay, I need analytics as an ingredient. I look at the reports. Okay, 500 calls are, finance related, payment related. Good insight. Do you have that infra? I don't have it. What you need to do that? So that's how we, stitch that, and that becomes fruitful investment. That reduces your junk waste, what you do, and which is not required. You simply listen to the technical discussions and you invest in it. Sounds very cool, you don't need it. Because sometimes you have to understand that experience has to be digital or physical.
True.
If answer is physical, why invest in digital? Correct. So that's the kind of conversation we start, and then we get into the everything which is needed. Now it has to be a cloud first, or it has to be, customer first, or it has to be anytime, anywhere, mobile. So for example, if you book a house today, it is completely touchless, if you want to book it. From anywhere, any device you can book it. Your e-KYCs are done automatically. Why? We could think of this one is because customer was, he said, I don't have Aadhaar card. No problem. We can serve you that. And that gives you an idea how. So you have to think ahead of what customer would want and then stitch everything.
So yeah, so maybe quickly moving on, because of course we were talking about data availability, because
Correct.
this all depends on that, and protecting the data that is available for the critical application. So Mr. Mukesh, if I could just also quickly ask you to contribute, because you are in a very data intensive generated environment. So how do you ensure data availability and critical assets?
Critical asset is a new word in the SEBI circulars and all those things. If anybody is from the broking world, the critical asset is going to be change entire things. So how do you define the critical asset, which contains the PI data, which contains the regulatory data? But now if you take a deep dive, actually the PI data is everywhere. Not even the trading floor, not even the back office, not even there. And it is there in the HRMS also. the PI data, say our personal details. So if I'm employee of any company, my personal details is with HR. So how do you protect the PE data and how do PI data, which is more critical? So everywhere you need to have some what you say is encryption, because that is important when where this data is residing. That's more important. How the data is at rest happening. So what are your old backups and what are your regular backups? The regulators have different things for the backups things, like SEBI says 7 years, the company policy, the company law say 8 years. So how do you manage all those things? And when you are growing, data is growing. 5 years back, 10 years back, when I purchased a small storage box, it was 4 TB. That was a huge at that point of time. Today we have in hundreds of TB, and ordinary organization. So data has grown multi X. So how do you protect it and how do you do it? And the best thing or another thing which we need to do it, and I had followed it, is rather than everybody has SDLC and all those things, you should have a data life cycle also. Most of the organization is missing that. Do you have a data life cycle? When is the data is going to retire? When it is going to be junk? When it is going to be thrown away? And what you need for the regulators? 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. So that is where you need to plan the data life cycle. We keep discussing of the infrastructure life cycle. After 3 years, this refresh this, 7 years, refresh this. Like he was saying, multiple applications after this. But nobody thinks of the data life cycle. So that is one thing which we need to revisit, because this is growing and regulators will come any day. Okay, we need this data for the 2020 or 18. This transaction, what was the background of these transaction? Because 10 years back, up to 7 years, they can come and ask anything, anytime. So you need to have those things protected when a plan at the rest. How do you achieve this? So that is more important.
So yes, so if I could quickly ask Mr. Tejas and Sunil, and then I would be going to Mr. Mohanty a little later for the smart manufacturing. So as he rightly mentioned about the life cycle, there's big data being created, and from the compliance perspective, so how do you ease or simplify this process is what I would like to ask.
I think adding to that, that Mukesh said, that apart from the cloud and infra and services which are already available, I think 3 major factors should play a major role. I think MDM is master data management. So once a data, you can say filtering or whatever trash data has been pulled out, so we need to ensure that each and every department should maintain a master data which is correct, up to date, and it's in use. It's not like a dormant data or something. Second thing is in terms of availability, I see that one thing is the omni-channel. Either it is available on WhatsApp, or it is available on website, or in terms of any form of availability to the customers. So the second thing is, this is more critical. And third is, obviously each and every organization must be having legacy systems. So to pull out that data and ensure that it is available in common, maybe analytics or in terms of dashboard, is something integration part wherein we will do API integration or whatever in form of Excel import or whatever. But these 3 things should be in line so that at least our future or maybe further analytics and data availability can be done.
And the relevance is there.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Sunil.
Yes. Data is very important with respect to each and everything. So then even, and historical data is very much important. So like this, so then there is some kind of the life cycle of the data we can depend upon the organization to organization. So then even if you are talking about some kind of the infrastructure, say here in Mumbai, we have seen that underground, this metro lines or elevated corridors. So then where that they keep the data around, say, not for the, say, 25, 50 years, but they keep the data for, say, 150 years, 200 years. Because that is required for to take any kind of the actions. If any disaster happens, so then what could be the action? Like this is something, so then even landing on the moon, so then rover started taking the pictures of that moon. So then we need to have that kind of the data. So data is very much important. And precisely now the technology is also there. So then even if you have the size of the data is increasing, but even there are the technology, then you can compress this data also. So then there are some kind of the storage devices also coming in the compact size. And because of this digital transformation happening with respect to cloud adoptions, private, public cloud, So then even organization moving their on-premises to that, even that cloud, and even the data is putting on that cloud. And moreover, that for the compliance purposes, now this is a new tech, this is coming BRSR. So then we need to have each and every kind of the data, and that is required for the mitigation of the risk for the companies also. And that is very much required. Not companies not looking only the growth, but even they would like to have some kind of the predictions. If any kind of the risk would be there, so then how they will be mitigate on the right time.
True.
This is
So, Mr. Nayak or Mr. Agrawal, if you all would like to add something.
Oh, I have the mic, okay. No, that was a very interesting discussion. And I just want to bring back those two topics, environmental sustainability, that deteriorates with IT infrastructure and data, and then data is equally important. So there is a bit of concern there, challenge there for CIOs. And as rightly mentioned by most of the experts, while data is important, a couple of things that can help. Number one, let's take a call where the compliance is needed, and do I really need to retain that much of data? Because more data you retain, it's going to impact the environmental sustainability. Once you identify that this is the data that you must have for internal compliance or regulatory, then technologies like ADR that will reduce the data, technologies like sustainability in terms of data usage, technologies that will help you optimize that. Certain optimizations beyond that would be looking like, do I really need duplicated data to be placed at multiple places? And a lot of services are around that will remove the redundancies in the data and optimize that. So yes, now with all of those technologies, environmental sustainability and the data growth is going hand to hand, and it's going to be very interesting in the future.
So maybe then I could quickly move on to data modernization. I think we are waiting to hear the valuable insights from Mr. Mohanty on that, because he would have great customer use case to talk about from Pidilite. So sir, if you could talk about smart data in manufacturing, that how is data modernization really impacting?
I will
Yes.
also discuss whatever other people have discussed.
Sure, sir, of course.
One is the data, the size of the data is increasing. It is not because it is increasing multifold, but it can be reduced. It can be reduced by using retaining what is smart data. All data are not required.
True.
So we are just storing data just like that. So the data which has been discussed here are mainly commercial data. But there is another data which actually manufactures the products.
The operational data.
Products
Yes.
which you sell. So those data are much more bigger than the commercial data which we say customer ka this feedback or financial statement as he says this, even the sustainability data. So you must categorize one by one, like sustainability data. In addition to sustainability data, you have to first achieve the sustainability. To achieve sustainability, you have to minimize the consumptions. Like we have data centers which are consuming a lot of electricity, taken from the grid, taken from the fossil fuel. You can use renewables. You can use solar, so reduce the
Energy consumption.
and make it more green and reduce the carbon footprint.
So how would you define smart data for yourself?
Smart data is the data which is useful when it is required. Otherwise, it is not useful. Like you have so many here, this just above you, the smoke detectors. Smoke detector data, if you go on storing, it is of no use for years together. For a good engineered building, smoke data is used maybe in 20 years. But when it is required, it is very important.
True.
If there is a fire here, So what is the way you use it as smart data?
And the relevance that it is there
You
in the
don't
operations.
store everything.
True.
You can use IoT there. This IoT sensors are there for storing the data for few minutes at the source itself. They don't transmit the data. By that, you don't have to load the bus system or the transmission system. So they will just store it for few minutes. In case there is a requirement, it will go to the required place. So, and then it will overwrite. So for 15 years, why you don't say no smoke, no smoke, no smoke, no smoke? But when smoke comes, you do not know whether it is there, whether it is correct or not, like tiger coming. So you should validate the data before you store it, whether it is useful. How you validate data? If is one sensor is there, smoke sensor, there will be sensors of opacity, CO2 sensors, oxygen sensors, light sensors. So when the smoke sensor says there is a smoke, it has to ask the peer by broadcasting. Peers like this, whether there is a change in the CO2 concentration, whether there is a change in the opacity. So that data is valid only when there is other peers say, yes, there is a change in CO2 concentration, there is a change in opacity. So this data is valid. These are to be stored. That is the smart data. In every aspect, that is the smart.
So any specific examples from your
I gave one
experience?
example.
Yes.
In manufacturing,
Yes.
it's manufacturing probably the audience may not understand. That's why I have not taken manufacturing. I have given you something very layman's example.
So no, I think manufacturing would work better. So we could also look at that.
See, manufacturing, there is a alarm systems built in into the control systems like DCAS. This Hitachi also had a control system, Hyatrix, some years back, running the big ones through boilers and the afterwards. So the boilers and the turbines. So if you want to store every alarm, which is not required.
Yes.
So there are event-driven alarm systems. The alarms are stored only when there is an event. Otherwise, all these alarms, the operator says silent. Like your alarm in the morning, you don't want to get up, alarm comes again, silent. Same thing happens in the operator also. So you have to select similarly with the correlation and interrelation with other parameters. If there is a flow change or a temperature change, it will ask whether there is a temperature change, whether there is a pressure change also. Broadcast it, take it, so that that data only is relevant.
Absolutely. I think, I want to add something,
Yes.
He brought in very important point. We should not keep retaining the data forever, because there are certain data that will carry the value for a longer time, so retain that. But there are specific data sets that their value diminishes over a period of time. And you have to store it at the edge in a local
There
way,
are data which
and
have no value.
then discard it unless you see a red flag, and bring only that data from a maintenance perspective back to the system. Very well said. Thank you.
So
and that
for
is the data
smart
life cycle.
That's a data life cycle, absolutely.
See the data which we are storing, most of the data, many of the data is useless.
True.
For the smart data, it should be available in raw form to be stored somewhere. You take the flight data recorder. Once in a while, the flight goes to the sea and you look for the black box. But that time it becomes very important.
True.
So that time this data which you say is not important, you have to store everything. The raw data has to be stored everything. But it is localized storage, it does not go anywhere. So only when there is an accident, the black box is retrieved and analyzed. What becomes important? Same thing everywhere. A turbine meets a disaster. So the data which is used for the turbine control and the maintenance of the turbine should be there local, and it should be taken in when it is required.
The relevance.
But there is a raw data requirement which has to be kept as historian or archiving. It is not, and sometimes it becomes necessary, as you said. After 15 years, somebody thinks that why this year water came. So that time it will be required. So the data has to be stored, transmitted smartly.
Yes, sir. So as we rightly are talking about smart data, so that also calls for data modernization, to some extent, and then of course leading to data monetization. So maybe if I could quickly ask you to give some thought on that, like how can you move to data monetization with your smart data, and then maybe move on to Yogesh, who talks about a lot
See,
about
data modernization, as it is, if you see, you can have, suppose you should do the exception. By exception, you should store the data, store or indicate the data, and it should be escalated depending on the time or the priority. Suppose there is one particular important data or any data which say a pump has failed. This is a data. So, but it is immediately it is given to different people, to the shift in charge, to the electrical fellow. But after some time it has to be escalated. The exception is reported, but it is escalated to the plant manager, to the managing director if it is required. If the turbine, the Bombay High turbine fails, it has to go to the Prime Minister also. That 45% this is gone. Your Bombay High turbine has failed. So like that, you should have a exception reporting and escalation of the data. That reduces the data traffic drastically.
Okay. So Yogesh, if I could ask you, what would be the best practices for unlocking the potential of data through data modernization strategies?
So now I want to take a point from what he explained, right? Data, so he very well explained, right? Data retentions, take the smart data. Now let me give an example of data modernization. I'll give you a real-time example. So glass manufacturing. So I'll take a manufacturing example. So a glass manufacturing conveyor belt in the previous organization where I used to work, around 1,400 to 1,500 tons of glass manufacturing, container glass, whatever you see in the medical shop that we used to manufacture. Now this is, as he said, this is data continuously you have to, that's a business data, not the other data which is how much you have receipts and all that stuff. So now when you get the real-time manufacturing insights, we have to make it a little modernized in terms of so that we know on so-and-so factory how many bottles are getting manufactured, how many going in, how many going out. Before this modernization we took, there were every 10 people on the conveyor belt who would say, okay, raw material went in, he makes an entry, 10 bottle dala, 10 nikala, this is the quality parameter, and it will go to the quality. Again, there is a manual intervention, there is a manual data, eventually it will get into the SAP system, and there are a lot of, handovers are happening on the data side. It's just a data inside. Now, how do you make it smart? And how do you modernize it? So that is where the IoT concept we introduced, around 1,400 to 1,500 sensors we could think of. Instead of this manual entry, those sensors were reading the number of bottles going in. They were also reading the quality parameters, what is the bottle, whatever the expected parameters of the bottle and whether it is being manufactured as per that or not. So what it is giving the data. Okay, you said this, it is manufacturing this. And that is continuously fed back into the cloud, in the data lake, and then a lot of matrices are being drawn on real-time basis on the manufacturing. So that is, we call it real-time manufacturing insight. Now, what is the advantage of this modernization? We had 1% of defect in the bottles on the end of the day or end of the month when we used to. So first of all, we never knew if we took an order from our client, he needs so and so many bottles and so and so. We never care by when we will finish this. Now we took this data modernization approach because we exactly know okay, to manufacture 100 glasses, it takes this much time. If I have to do this much, it will take this much time, and this is the potential date. This was all used to happen, people dependent. Now it is sensory, it is metrics are derived and predictive and prescriptive. I can definitely say on so and so date, exactly on this date, this you will deliver this. On top of that, we used to have around 1% of defects. Now I know where exactly because my sensors knows what is, where it went wrong and on which conveyor belt and in what point. So my reaction time is faster. Because of my reaction time is faster, I know the root cause of fixing, and that is a permanent root cause. So my production efficiency improved just doing the modernization approach, which is typical in IoT case. We worked with Microsoft. Microsoft very proudly puts it on their use case nowadays. But this is one of the smart manufacturing example, just what sir said.
So I could quickly move to Mr. Nayak, sir. So how do you unlock the potential of data? What are the best practices for you for modernization?
Finally data has to be put to use, whether it's at rest or in transit. And what is important for unlocking its potential to have a cogent strategy with respect to data lifecycle management. One of the panelists covered it earlier. And a lot of times one has to understand the nuances around the data that is there. For example, even when you talk of master data, right, a lot of people look at it as a time independent, the latest value is the correct value. That's not the case. You have a lot of cases, especially in the area of analytics, when you want to see, let's say, year-on-year movement of things. You would like to have snapshots of master data at different periods of time, right? Now, how should one go about storing it? Is the transaction processing the system the right place to keep that information? No, it might be an expensive way of doing it. And that's where having a cogent data lake strategy, wherein you pump in data, okay, with the view that as the hypothesis change, right, of what you're trying to do to monetize that data, you have copies available, okay, at different points of time which are able to correlate and come up with a particular answer. An example is that there were two tables at the starting which were at the same level, right? And at halfway through the conversation, right? So if you want to test a hypothesis that, I want to know when the tables were more than 1 foot apart, you'll get the current snapshot. But did this one go down or this one came up? If you want to know, right? You'll require that historical paradigm over there. And that's where it is key to have a cogent data lake strategy to later on be able to tailor your warehouse, okay, as hypothesis or use cases for that monetization change. Thank you.
Great. So I think because we are like kind of having paucity of time, so quickly moving on to the AI and the ML perspective on IT. So Sanjay, if I could start with you, give a perspective from the IT standpoint, that how is AI and ML into data infrastructure integration happening? If you could give some thoughts on that, please.
Okay, let me give some examples, and that will probably be the answer to that. So if you look at AI and ML, it's an initiative or a technology that cuts across every single layer that enterprises have today. So let me start from the bottom. When you talk about data center modernization, for example, and when you talk about data storage, where traditionally we used to have, for example, automated sensing and provisioning of a data volume based on the need, if there is a threshold that has been crossed. The decision was left to administrator to find out where to pick up the capacity from which array, which one is free, busy, capacity, utilization, and all of that factors. With AI and ML integration into those technologies in terms of provisioning, it has become smart and automated provisioning. So it picks up data and analyzes continuously and immediately says this is the array which is least busy, has surplus capacity, provision the volume, and it's a real-time initiative leveraging AI and ML. That is as far as in underlying infrastructure is concerned. When you look at entire data center, people are talking about ITSM, people are talking about ITOM, which have been traditional. When you apply a layer of AI and ML on top of that, it becomes end-to-end, it becomes smart. And you would have heard the names like AI Ops, Hyper Ops, They are not only stitching all of these together, bringing intelligence to it, but also bringing in integrated approach, monitoring, observe, analyze, act, and give back the answer to the end user and consumer. That's more at the data center level. Let's talk about a little bit on data front. When we talk about data, and people are talking about data lakes, right? Data lake is petabytes of data, and there are modernization in the data lakes happening, whether you want to have a data mesh-based approach or data fabric-based approach. Either of these approaches you take, MDM, data catalogs are the pillars of your initiative. And the biggest challenge that people face when they onboard a data, their data catalog and MDMs are not populated. Even though you have onboarded the data yesterday, data may not be visible for a couple of days. That's where AI and ML comes in again, for example. Technologies like data tagging, technologies like data fingerprinting is being used. And in real time, you populate the catalog with your technical business glossaries. And that data, which was visible only after 2 days, is now visible in real time. So this is just a tip of the icebergs. AI and ML can be hundreds of these examples can be discussed, and it applies to IT, business, and everything.
So quickly, Tejas, if I could ask you any experience on AI integration quickly, otherwise we could move on to
So just a basic 2 use case which I would like to say. See, AI is, I think everyone is using on daily basis. Either you take it Zomato, you take it any WhatsApp image where they will say that, do you want a credit card? I will just say click and say yes. Even in case of Zomato or something, when you will say that, okay, where is my order? So obviously there are presets of data which has been fed as an answer, and then it has been answered. So that is one case of AI which has been used. So for us, or as a information technology, we keep maybe as a bot in maybe website, or wherein I want to contact you for this product, or I want this product as a, and you immediately get an e-policy or something like that. So that is what AI for us, or we have implemented this. ML is something wherein I would say that, let's say I would take the use case of IoT device, wherein we take a lot of data from the machines, and then we do the, let's say there are 3 types of parameters like downtime, number of production reports. And so in that case, ML is been used at how most of the data is been churned out. So, and then relatively the result which we need to be shown to the management has been shown. This 2 use cases definitely in our current scenario which has been used, and it has been most in demand.
Mr. Nayak, would you like to contribute, or Mr. Sunil? And then I would move to Yogesh quickly.
Sure. Let me take a manufacturing example. Yes. I mean, one place where AI can definitely be used in the area of statistical process control, right? Wherein you have an AI algorithm that determines a drift from the mean, right? And basis past incidents is able to tell you the probability of failure.
True.
Typically what happens is that you have hard set limits, right? Which is at a high degree of safety. And given that there are many components on which you're doing statistical process control, people don't have the wherewithal, what was done at the commissioning of that line or the plant is what gets leveraged, right? Wherein actually you might realize that if your probability of failure is low, you might still, want to change the mean, or let the mean get violated, let's say till the end of the shift, okay? Before you go ahead and do a rectification. That saves money because your productivity is improved significantly. Thank you.
One of the case which we did in my previous organization was a classic small case, but it was very effective. What we used to do is we had a trading platform app, and we need suppose Minu has that trading platform app. So we read the data of the mobile, right? So what we used to do is that when the salary is getting credited, when money is incoming or outgoing, and then second we used to check how many other trading app she's using, and then we used to check, okay, when she logs in to our app and what the movement is there, we record everything. Okay, you had gone to the market watch, or you had gone to and you see say 3-4 symbols like Reliance or TCS and all those things. And then what you do the next, so you are exiting from our app, are you going to some other app? So today there are say 5 competitors. So from our app you go to the competitor 1, and there if you purchase say 50 Reliance, so we have a track of that. So we'll push some data, okay, and then we'll push a data on her mail that, okay, we have a negative reports on the, say, X company. I miss the name, I unfortunately take the name. So we used to say, okay, you had purchased this, but we have a negative reports, a sale report on this, or other way. And whenever the transaction used to, the banking transaction used to happen, okay, where the money is incoming and outgoing, suppose where you do the payout for the, say, purchase or say sale. So we used to track that and we used to update, okay, this is right or wrong, or this is something. So that was an interesting case. And then the people used to come back to us, okay, I purchased this script, and now it has fallen 3%, 5%. You were right. So this is the way we used to do an entire tracking.
So I
of
think
a,
I would also like to ask, whether this was intruding the privacy of the client, or so maybe
you
I'll
have
take that off.
you
off
have when
the
you
thing,
say when you sign the applications or when you sign
are
the
allowing your
app,
data to
there
be
is a
used.
consent for everything.
Okay.
There is a consent when you have to.
So
you
your
give-
data can be circulated
No,
amongst various platforms.
there is a consent to read the text data. There is a consent to read the cookies and all those things. So there you have. As of now, there is a not. It's a legal thing.
Okay. So Yogesh, quickly, because we were discussing, the generative AI being extensively used for better customer experience, and then maybe we'll quickly conclude the session after that.
Sure. See, AI and ML, if you ask me, it's just an intelligence layer which is brought in, right? Human intelligence is being replaced by artificial intelligence because humans are becoming lazy and spoiled by choices. So now, given a real-time example, so now ChatGPT has become talk of the town, isn't it? And there are now people have come out with so many GPTs. There is an marketing GPT, there is a sales GPT. People have started embedding AI into their product itself. So now they are selling product with a ChatGPT tag. But basically, as I rightly said, right, if you know what you want and what is your intent, this AI you can use very smartly, being a human. You are on top of it. So let me give one example how we have used it. Now, what he talked about is the typical case of hyper-personalization and what is best next action. Say, for example, you are on L&T site, right? I was giving an example. You start behaving, which is customer behavior. You log in. Say you made up a mind that you want to buy a L&T house. At least that much I'm assuming you have made a mind. L&T is a good logo. I should go and let me search on the web. And that's where the entire AI world comes into picture. No human intervention. You started search. You clicked, you logged in, you were looking at, okay, Powai, I want to see Powai, how many projects are there. Now what you are doing is you are behaving on my website. Now when you start behaving, I am leaving the footprints and you are qualifying for certain actions. Now when that happens, my algorithms are running in the behind, which is an artificial intelligence, which will tell you if you behave like this, I think the next best action for you is 2 BHK in Powai in your budget is this. So now what I'm doing this intelligence not to intrude yourself, but to help and comfort yourself as a customer. As I said, I know I want to, best customer delight I want to bring in. The information will come not on the keyword basis if this do that. It is now conversational or contextual or what you call as a generative AI. It will understand and then push the data, and that makes the difference between ChatGPT versus traditional AI we used to have. Traditional AI needed if this, then this, if this, and then. Or within that, if the journey is broken, you will get irrational AI outcomes. Now, what we have done is we have used this concept. We are very smart, even to throw the output of an AI. So then it will be very hyper-personalized. So when you decided, okay, I like this one, you are confused at same and real time some person will come to know that this suspect or prospect without getting into the, asking numbers and email, you will say, can I help you? Because you are stuck at this one, I can help you. You are not able to find this because I know the problem. That's where we use that algorithm. It is API integrated with our telephony systems. A human is aware. He has the history of the customer because he behaved in certain way. So he will not ask what you do. He said, you are looking for this one, here it is. Go there, go there. It's an assistive AI, right? If you use the AI and ML in that way, then it will lead to a monetization. Then it will lead to meaningful insight. So in such a way, we also give a virtual tour. It is not like, you do not have control. For example, you can speak. You do not have to click anything. People are becoming lazy. They want to talk. So we have created what you call a virtual salespeople, which are better than human salespeople. They will tell you exactly, this is ask in any language. Say for example, I'm taking a tour, right? Now we have implemented AI, which is on the virtual reality, which is there for many years, but this is different. You go there, he said, this is under construction property, I don't know how the view would be from the 10th floor. You can say demand, bolo Hindi mein 10वें महल से कैसा दिखेगा? The AI will understand whether I spoke in 3 English, 1 Hindi, it will answer you in Hindi. It will say, यहाँ से ये वाला sir, this is the view from your bedroom, this is how it will look. And that's where I embed, my drone inputs and I build that experience through an AI. So I bring that intelligent layer in the entire experience, and this is how we use this technology. And just to give you an example.
Yes, great. Yes, sir.
So I would like to add here, so that even AI and ML is not making the human lazy, because this is giving some kind of that intelligence to have people more to be productive. And that is what we need today's time. So right now, we seen that previous some kind of presentations where smart cities are coming, a smart world is there, IoT, industrial IoT we are talking. So then it means we need the data each and every second. And that AI and ML will help to filter out what kind of the data we need to make the decision. So that where it comes in the picture.
Yes, so to quickly just summarize, I think because we are really running out of time. So sir, if I could just ask you to give some closing remarks, and if anybody wants to contribute, and then maybe Sanjay sir could summarize the
On
takeaway
what?
points.
AI, ML?
No sir, just whatever. So data-driven strategies basically for success of your business outcomes.
See, data-driven is required for the business. Without that, we cannot do business.
So the smart strategy behind that.
Strategy for the data-driven.
So the
Use
smart,
everything.
yes. So basically what I'm trying to do is that how do organizations align their business objectives with the smart data-driven strategies?
See, for the organization for the manufacturing organization to survive, long back, it was necessary to have data-driven. Without that, you cannot produce. You have a specification to produce. It is only on data.
Absolutely.
So,
I think, I can partly answer this. Smart data strategy is the right way to monetize data. And when we are talking about monetization, manufacturing, retail, real estate examples were taken. Today, if you look at other retails and banking, for example, data definition has changed. It's no longer the transactional data that comes from applications like core banking, ERPs of the world, but 90% of the data is coming from, let's say, sentiments, interactions, online behavior, clickstream data, and all of that. I think that should be integrated as a part of overall data strategy for the right data monetization, because with this additional data that has started coming in with the digital transformation, the customer 360 definition has completely changed. Customers are no longer recognized by the transactions they do with a bank or any entity for that matter, but with their online behavior, preferences, loyalties, the malls they visit, locations they visit. And if you pick up all of these data and apply your analytics, AI on that, you would get a completely different view that you never thought of. And that way you can redefine your business strategy. So coming back to the summary of the whole thing, I really enjoyed this. You know why? Because Minu, you started with digital transformation.
True.
And when people are talking about digital transformation, the data lies at the core. To take advantage of the data, all of them, all enterprises, want to become as data-driven organization. When you embark on a journey that is for data-driven initiatives, it actually starts with technology foundation, because you have to, at the end of the day, onboard data, store data, manage data, protect data, and make your application resilient. So your technology foundation, which is data center modernization, and that was the first part of the whole discussion, a lot of inputs came in. After that, of course, data management, data monetization came in. And I would like to add, when it comes to data monetization, technologies like data blending and integration is also coming up. When you blend the data, which is transactional data with unstructured data, you get to know different things, and that helps you redefine your go-to-market strategy.
True.
And then on top of that, if you apply AI and ML, trust me, your data journey or digital transformation journey gets accelerated. And that's what we all learned, and I enjoyed personally. Thank you all.
Thank you. So I don't know if we have a quick 2 minutes for any Q&A from the audience, if you would like to direct any questions to our, yes sir, please. Can we have the mic there, please? So we'll just keep it very brief. I'm sure, we need to move on. And so just kindly introduce yourself. And
Just I would like to add small point to the smart data idea, that along with data, we should keep statistics of the data. That will keep the volume of the data low, and large amount of data can be discarded by just keeping statistics of it.
thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes.
Yesterday, I'm Mahesh, but independent software vendor. Yesterday, data protection bill has been passed in India, Parliament. What do you feel its repercussions, costs, as well as risks? Because don't know the fine print, but this has been going on for more than a decade. So you all being in industry should know quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, may I? So first things is for every organization is to figure out whether you're classified under what classification of data fiduciary your particular organization comes in, because the rules and regulations are slightly tweaked basis if you're a large data fiduciary. The second point is if you're a large data fiduciary, definitely there is a need for every organization to have a chief or the customer data protection officer. Yes, I hope I got that right. That is the second change that has come in. The third is especially in the area of data related to people with disabilities and minors, right? So imagine in a retail store, if a teenager walks in, right, and gives his or her details for your argument's sake loyalty program, right? Now it's important that you figure out whether that individual is 18 or above or lower than 18, because if it's lower than 18, then that data principle requires a consent, right, from the parent. Now, and the ownership of all that lies with the
custodian of the data.
Yeah, the data fiduciary. Same. A lot of us today, the whole ecosystem is there for supporting us with analysis of the data that we own, right? And typically, these entities legally, the term is data processors, ensuring that the data protection is there at the data processor's premises also now is a responsibility and logically should be of the data fiduciary. So there are a lot of changes over there. Even we are learning as we go, just like you, sir. Thank you.
So we could, of course, discuss these in detail during our lunch interaction. And thank you so much. I would cut short the session now, really beyond time. Thank you so much to all the esteemed speakers for taking the time out, and to the audience to make it very interesting for us by interacting. And please feel free to reach out to the speakers when we are taking a break ahead. And thank you so much again, sir, gentlemen. Thank you.